Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Lisa Jarrett, and I'm one of the co-founders and co-directors of KSMoCA, or the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. School Museum of Contemporary Art. I'm joined today by my co-founder and co-director, Harold Fletcher, and by Amanda Lee Evans, who is one of our primary collaborators. And we are thrilled to have everybody back to experience the third talk by the wonderful artist Soheila Azadi. I'm going to turn it over to Mo to introduce Soheila in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to make sure to welcome all the Dr. MLK Junior School students who are with us on our YouTube live stream. And we want to remind you all that if you have any questions for the artist, that you can go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will make sure to ask Soheila at the end of her talk so that you can learn whatever it is that you'd like to know about her and her work. I also want to make sure to thank everybody at Dr. MLK Junior School who supports this project, specifically Jill Sage, who is the school principal, Nancy Rios, Michelle Peak, Paige Thomas, and of course, Mr. Monty, who I have been leaving out of these thank yous. But Mo reminded me last week that to make sure to thank Mr. Monty too. So Mr. Monty, much love. Thank you so much. We are really excited to be here today with Mo and Soheila. And I'm going to turn it over to Mo to introduce Soheila, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end of the conversation. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Mo, what
I just want to say something before I start.
Okay.
Make sure to exercise. That's very good. Make sure to exercise. Mr. Monty taught me that.
Very good.
Actually, everyone did. Okay, let's start this. Hi, I'm Mo. I go to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. School. I'm also the head photographer for KSMoCA, the thing that sponsors this thingamabob. Today, I'm introducing the artist Soheila Azadi for her third lecture in this series. So Soheila Azadi is an artist, writer, educator, and a mother based in Portland, Oregon, and Iran. That is super cool. Born in the capital of Islamic cities, Isfahan, she has learned storytelling skills through Persian miniature drawings and Islamic architecture since she was 9. That is very cool. Azadi's art comes from her experience of being a woman of color living under theocracy and democracy. I know what democracy is. Azadi uses different media in her artwork to talk about gender, sex, race, culture, and religion. I don't believe in any religion. I believe in all. She is interested in how they overlap. She likes telling stories of women. She also really likes working with fabric. Welcome, Soheila. Thank you for being here today. By the way, make sure to like and subscribe.
Thank you, Mo. That was amazing. Thank you. And thanks to everyone for for being here for this talk. I'm going to share my presentation with you all, and we'll go from there. So today I like to talk about storytelling, and specifically storytelling in Iran. And in my statement that Mo read, you realize that I talked about how it inspired my practice and the way I think about, architecture. And so I thought it would be a good chance to walk you guys through a few forms of storytelling that happen in Iran. Okay. So before anything, I thought I should give you a little bit of information about where Iran is, and so you have a better understanding of the whole presentation. So Iran is situated in the Middle East. So it's in between Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and part of Turkey. And so there are many ethnic groups that live within Iran with different languages, different dialects, different forms of art, etc. So Iran, as Mo mentioned, is the system is theocracy. What does it mean? Theocracy means when any religion is the laws of the country is based on religion. And in the case of Iran, the laws are based on Islam. And so that means it's one of the two countries in the world that women have to cover up. They have to cover their hair and their body. And it basically influences and impacts how people appear outside and what you see in the media, etc. But a little bit more about Iran and Islam. So Islam has two parts, Shia and Sunni. It's like Christianity has two, I think two. But Iran, Islam also has Shia and Sunni. And Iran is most of the population, they practice Shia. So in Sunni, there are a few differences between the two, but we're not going to go in detail. But what I want us to focus on is to think about the use of images in both of these, Shia and Sunni. So as you see, a few countries that are situated close to Iran, they also are Shia, they practice Shia. In Sunni religion, unlike Christianity, the use of images are forbidden. So they are not allowed to use images of Prophet Muhammad in their mosques, unlike Christianity, where we see images of Jesus everywhere in churches. And the previous one, this one is an image of a church where you see all the images, of people, but versus here, there's no. So because it is forbidden. Here is a good example to look at. Here is a statue of Jesus versus a drawing, a Persian miniature drawing of Prophet Muhammad. And you don't see his face because, again, it's forbidden. In Sunni practice, it's forbidden altogether. But in Shia, there's a little bit of room for the usage of figures. So as you see, the Persian miniature drawing, which comes from Iran, they do draw the figure, but the face is, clear. So it leaves it to the imagination of the viewer. And because the use of figures and images are forbidden, therefore, artists started using patterns. So patterns and texts are what make up Islamic art, basically. It's very colorful, very beautiful, but you don't see any images of people. Here's another example. So there's the text, which is in Arabic here, but it can be in Farsi, it can be in any other language, but mostly because Quran is in Arabic, most of the writings in Islamic art is in Arabic. So how did this impact storytelling? So in Iran, as I mentioned, they are Shia, so they still can use a little bit of figures, but they started thinking, how can we still tell stories without using images? So one form of storytelling that they created was named Taziyeh. So Taziyeh is basically only practice in Iran and in a few Shia countries. So what is Taziyeh? Taziyeh is basically a form of telling a story, and the specific story that Taziyeh oftentimes narrates is the story of Imam Hussein. So Taziyeh is a way to tell the story of how Imam Hussein and his tribe got killed. And so to honor him, we need to remember him and remember what happened. But it basically is a reenactment. We have reenactment as part of performance art. And all of the presentation today is a hint on performance art in Iran. So all these people are ordinary people. They're not, they didn't go to theater school. They didn't go and get voluntarily start participating in these in this reenactment. So I have a few images, but if you realize some of the images, some of the figures, their faces are covered. If the face is covered, like this one, it's because it's a woman. But remember, we're talking about Islam, and men and women have to be separated at all times if possible. So underneath that covering up, there's actually a man playing a woman, but he has his face covered so that we think that it's a woman. And also there will be another person who his face would be covered, and it would be Prophet Muhammad. So as you see, it's very, elegant. There are horses, there are, and it depends on how much budget they have, but they play it differently. So there's so much improvisation in this form. I like where you can actually see. Okay, here we go. This one, they had a good budget. And oftentimes these things happen in the rural areas where people strongly believe in Islam.
به قربان دیده های ترت بیا رقیه بیا رقیه که خواهم جدا شوم ز برت رقیه کم نمایا افغان در این قربت به در جان دل فکایا
Okay, as you saw, most of them are holding a paper. That means oftentimes they read over the script. And these two figures, they are actually boys, but playing girls here. So again, women are not really allowed to play a role in this reenactment. Every now and then I go back and talk about the role of women in these forms of storytelling. So again, they use all these props and and acts to tell a story, and this has been highly practiced in Iran, especially now because of the government and the system that is dominant now in Iran. Let's move on to another form of storytelling, dance. When we talk about Iran, that surprisingly, that is something that I rarely hear people talk about. Dance, it's a huge part of our culture. But again, because of the restrictions that Islam and the government put upon people, this form is rarely talked about. So again, Iran has different regions, and every region has its own dialect and its own food and sort of its own culture. So today I decided to bring in 3 regions and talk about how they tell stories via dancing in that region. Gilaki Dance. Gilaki is a dance specific to the north part of Iran. If you remember when I showed the slide, the map of Iran, it's very green up there. So maybe I can go and show you guys the, there we go. So the northern part, which is basically below the Caspian Sea, is where Gilaki people live. So they have their own dialect, their own dance, they're known for their food. But because of the way they are, the geography and where they are situated, their dance is heavily inspired by their practice. What is their practice? Most people there, they have rice fields. They are farmers, they grow rice, And so their dance is basically showing us visually through, you know, body gestures and music and, you know, symbols that they are growing rice. So in the video that I want to show you, when it comes to dancing, these dancings don't happen outside homes, because remember, everything has to be separate. I mean, for a woman to dance, you know, out in the public, because of Islam, it's forbidden. So what happens is that most dancings happen within private spaces like homes. But I also have a few videos that dancers live abroad. So if you see that, and if it is confusing, I'm sorry. I mean, the whole history of Iran is confusing. But basically, the video that you are about to see, as you see here on the image, these women are holding these trays, and they scattered the seeds, and then they water them, and they wait for it, and then they harvest, and then they celebrate. I'm going to stop the share here and show you a video. Or Gilaki Dance.
Okay, we can't see it. We can see the screen.
Oh, did I not share the screen?
I think we're looking at the PowerPoint screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. You got confused.
That's perfect. We can see it now.
Thank you.
خیاط بده هیچ کی نبود خیاط بچه تر کوچ بود وای روسیای رنا جان برگرد بیای رنای کشی رنا سیر خوش میشه رنای کشی رنا سیر خوش میشه آخر مرا کشی بیل دوستی کردا جانی انا بنی تی دستانی آی روسیای رنا جان برگرد بیای رنا کشی رنا سیر خوش میشه رنا کشی رنا سیر خوش میشه رنا کشی رنا سیر خوش میشه
Great. Okay, let's go back to So again, if you realize what the gestures that they were making, they were harvesting, and then they were sharing, you know, and oftentimes these dances happen in groups, which is a key element for all the dances that I cover today. The next dance I like to share is the Lori dance, or the wood dance. So the wood dance, or the Lori dance, is specific to the region that is bordering Iran and Pakistan. Again, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to our map, and you see where the border of Pakistan is. That's where Lori dance come from. So it's somewhat dry, and so these people, Lor people, are that's the name of a tribe. They are the keepers of borders. So that heavily inspires their dance movements. So their dance movements seem as if they are in battlefield. And again, they are in, their dances are in groups. I'd like to show you guys a video. Sorry, I keep on going back and forth. Okay, here's a dance that is organized by the government. So the dance that you saw before, it was someone who recorded it in the West. That's why you could see a woman dancing. Otherwise, if it is in the public, women cannot dance, nor they can sing. But the one that you are about to see, men only participate in it. Okay.
Have you noticed your baby zoning
I'm
out or
sorry.
distracted by electronic toys? When they're just pushed.
Soheila, we're not able to hear it.
Sorry?
We're not able to hear it for some reason.
Ah. Okay, it's okay. It's the body movements that I want us to look at. We'll make sure we figure this out next. Obviously, a different experience you'll have once you hear the music along with movements. But basically, what the story that these people were narrating was of a battlefield. So there are at times in the same group, but other times they're against each other. So body movements, I mean, rhythm is very important. And they use wood because these people really they don't have access to anything other than wood to protect the borders, basically. Let's move on to Pandi Dance. Hopefully we'll have music, because every music is different based on the region. Pandi Dance. Pandi goes back to Pandi people are the people who live by Persian Gulf. Persian Gulf is, let me go back to our map. As you can see, the Persian Gulf is by Dubai, so all the way down. And Pandi people, they live close by Persian Gulf. And their dance movements are heavily inspired by where they live, which is by the Gulf, and which means most of these people are fishermen, fisherwomen. So fishing is their practice. And you can see symbols of fishing in their dance. They are heavily inspired by that region, specifically by Arab countries that they are surrounded by. So Kuwait, Dubai, all of these are Arab countries. And so a little bit of dialect is inspired by Arabic language. But also, historically, they've been inspired by African music, African food, and African culture in general. So body movements like shaking the body is a part of it, which is very common in that region. Let's look at the video I chose for Pandi Dance. So again, the video that I found is to hopefully have women be present in my presentation and not just cover everything that is done by men. So this was done in the West, the video that you are about to see, in a public space. But traditionally, you don't see women dancing in public. Because of the, again, restrictions that government puts upon people. So here's the Pandi Dance. Again, they move in groups, and here you'll see the fisher people. They throw the net, and then they pull the net out, and then they celebrate. Let's look at it. Is there audio?
Not really. I don't know why that's happening. We can hear it right at the beginning when you press play, and then it disappears.
What should we do?
I don't know.
Okay, well, let's just keep going because we don't have time, I guess. Okay. Let's go back to our presentation. So as you saw, all the dances are trying to tell us stories, and with music, with rhythm, body movements. For the sake of time, I guess I have to cover this quickly. Nakali. What is Nakali? And that is an ancient way of telling story in Iran. The Naqal means narrator. Naqali means to narrate. So they oftentimes tell stories of, the book of king, or Persian myths or Persian poetry. This practice is very, very male dominant. So why? Because they have to perform it in public. Where? In cafes, in bazaars, in the streets. This practice, unfortunately, is dying out. But it's just one person doing it all. So that means that person not only narrates stories, but also plays the story as he narrates them. So I have 2 videos ready for you guys. I'm going to send it to Amanda, hopefully, if you don't mind sharing it, so that we make sure it plays the audio. Is that okay?
We can try. I don't have a great internet connection.
Oh,
I
okay.
wonder if you try in the top left corner choosing turn on original sound. That might help.
Left.
Of Zoom.
So up there.
Yeah, in the Zoom window, in the top left corner, it says turn on or off original sound. But the videos looked great, although the audio came in and out.
Okay.
I don't think my connection will be much better though. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Soheila, you could send it to me. This is Lisa, if you'd like, and I'm happy to do that if you'd like.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
If you put the link in the chat, I should be able to get it that way.
And I'll let you know when to start it. So
At 5:26?
yes.
Okay.
Not 5, sorry, it's 0.
0:26. Okay, getting there.
Towards the beginning.
Okay, I will share my screen now. Can you see my screen, a YouTube window? Okay. Is there sound?
اندیشه گفت که این بر من از من رسید، زمانه به دست تو دادم کلید. دوباره امون دادم از کارزار، به پیریت بخشیدم ای نامدار. اما تو به من رحم نکردی، اینه بدون پدرم خبر بشه جگرت در میاره. از این نامداران گردن کشان، کسی هم برد سوی رستم نشان. چه بشنید رستم سرش خیره گشت، جهان پیش چشم اندرش تیره گشت. بزد نعره و خونش آمد به جوش، بدو گفت با ناله و با خروش. بگو تا که داری ز رستم نشان، که گم باد نامش ز گردن کشان. که رستم منم و پدر تویی، چقدر به تو التماس کنون بند بگشای از جوشنم، برهنه ببین این تن روشن. رستم اینجا رو فرا کرد، چشمش افتاد.
As he was telling the story, he was moving his body to tell us how he was stabbed and how at the last moment they realized the. So that's the one who we listens.
Thank you so much, Soheila. Such a beautiful and informative presentation. So nice to get some history and understanding of the different regions of the Middle East and performance and dance and how all those things are happening in space. We so appreciate you. There are a few questions in the chat that I'd love to share with you, but before we get to those, I wanted to make sure that I asked you Mo's question since he had to go. Mo wanted to know, why did you become an artist? And what inspired you to do that? I think he was so moved that you had been thinking about Persian miniature drawing since you were 9 years old. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that for our young audience.
Sure. I think it very much goes back to what I covered today, to narrate stories. I wanted people to know more stories on women who are from Iran, and not just the stories that media give us. I thought my work can give another dimension to those stories, to stories of women from Iran. And because the ones that we see in media, they rather are looking very gray, let's say. So I wanted it to be more colorful because I grew up in a colorful environment. I wanted to share that via my works, art.
Mo is going to be so excited to hear that. Thank you so much. He likes to go back and watch the talks after he has class, so he can only come for a little while. So thank you for answering that question for Mo. He also wanted to understand more about what theocracy was, but you did talk about that in your presentation. So thank you so much for that as well.
Sure.
I do have a question from a PSU undergrad student. Nicholas would like to know, do you see a day or time in the future where women will be able to take part in some of these dances in public? And then a follow-up question, does culture need to change drastically for this to happen?
Not necessarily the culture has to change, because again, that's within our culture, but the government is what prevents that to happen. But still we see new movements coming in and out. There was a movement recently where women would unveil in public. I mean, all of them were put in jail, but still you see gestures like that every now and then in public. So but also if women are in safety of their community, oftentimes in public there are times that that they can dance, you know, if they know they are protected by their families and community, they dance. If not, they don't.
Tenzin would love to know, how do you see these areas of inspiration and cultural learning reflected in your own work? And I believe that Tenzin is referring to sort of the variety of practices from different areas on the map like you showed us. And thank you so much for that too. It was really lovely to kind of see regionally where the dance practices were coming from and how it related to how people live in those particular areas. Could you speak to that, about how it informs your own work, the variety?
Absolutely. To be honest, preparing for this talk was really refreshing for me, because I never thought about, you know, even incorporating any of those in my practice. And after doing this talk and preparing for this talk, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly related to what I do, performance artist, what I'm very passionate about. I do, it inspires my work, you know, in different ways, but I feel like I'm not diving in deep, but which is my plan for future. But there are works that I've done that there are hints of Persian dance, specifically Sama dance, which I didn't cover. There are many other forms of dance in Iran that I didn't cover, but I've done performances where the inspirations came from those dance movements. Yeah, but as I'm, you know, learning more, I think I'm getting more fascinated by the culture and wanting to incorporate more of that in my works, for sure.
I love that answer, because I think as artists learning, you know, we learn all the time, and it's so lovely when something that we're presenting publicly actually inspires our work privately, and how it sort of starts to build into those things. Thank you for such an honest, open answer. Joey would love to know what you're working on currently, like what a current project is. And then she's also curious if it's feeling exciting or colorful, and what are the harder parts of doing this work for you?
So I'm working on a project that is on motherhood now. So collecting, because I recently had my second child. She's 4 months old, and you know, I'm very much occupied with her, and I get inspired so much by, you know, daily acts of playing with her, you know, changing her clothes. And so weaving is something that I'm thinking about, using her clothes. So that would be the next project I will be working on, weaving a practice that is especially you know, rock making is something that I'm thinking about, you know, using hair clothes as a way to, you know, to use it to make rocks, a practice that is done within private by women. So and the other question, I'm sorry, what are the harder parts of doing what?
Yeah, I think that Joey's trying to ask, what are the harder, what's hard for you in your practice, or are there things that you find challenging or hard to confront, even though you continue to do work within that way? And are there exciting parts? I love that the question also has color mentioned in there. So
Right.
I think they're just trying to get a sense of, you know, what are the emotional ups and downs within making your work.
I think the most challenging part is that it makes me feel homesick even more. You know, during the presentation today, I was getting very, very emotional considering what's happening in the world. You know, I'm not able to travel, and so I'm so removed from everything that I covered today, and so it feels it feels odd to talk about something that I'm so removed from, or away from. So it, although it excites me to share, but it's kind of painful at the same time. At the end of the day, I am an immigrant forever, and so it comes with its emotions for sure. But in my work, I try and tend to focus on the happy part and colorful parts. Yeah.
I wonder, this is a question from me. In the past, you've talked so much about collaborating with your mother, for example, or collaborating with family members in some of your installation-based work. And I'm curious if you envision a time or imagine a time where you might collaborate with your daughter and your mother.
Oh, don't make me cry today. No, um, uh, that would be perfect. That would be perfect. That would be ideal. If there will be a time that that my mother can see my daughter, and that the three of us can work together. Yeah.
That would be amazing. I can't wait for it.
Same here.
So just a few more questions in the chat. Tenzin is wondering, what do you believe or see the impact of your artwork being? And what do you hope to see it do in the world?
I mean, I think I sort of touched upon it with the first question, that I want people to see more than what, to see more in detail of what a Muslim woman can do and can be, other than what we see in media, that she's covered, she has no agency, and it's the Muslim man that makes decisions for her. But I want my work to tells you, no, she has agency, she has the choice, and she is making the choice. Maybe not always, but depending on the government that she lives under. If she's in the West and she's covered, oftentimes it's her choice and she has agency. I'm hoping that my work gives you that other dimension.
It's powerful. Thank you.
Sure.
A follow-up to the question about motherhood, and Mo commented on this in the intro too. He was really impressed with all of the roles that you have. He's like, wow, that's a lot of jobs. I think he said, you're amazing when we were practicing. Janet Marie is asking if being a mother has changed the way you approach your work, especially considering the things that you shared today.
Yes, absolutely. I think the first time I started collaborating with my mother was when I was pregnant. And once you're pregnant, I feel like you start being a mother, with your body is engaged in a very different way. And so I think from the moment I was pregnant to now that my child is 4 years old, and I have another one, I especially times that I can't time-wise make, my mind is constantly thinking about ways that I can still make, but maybe not in a studio setting, but it can be in the house while I'm feeding her, and so writing is something that comes handy. In the first piece I wrote, the second or third one, was when I was pregnant, and it was the thing that I could do, with being a busy mother, working and wanting to make. So yeah.
And just a few final questions. This is from Joey again, who would like to know, if COVID was not our current reality, do you think you would still feel disconnected from your homeland and your culture? And how have you been comforting those feelings or homesickness or feelings of homesickness in your practice? And what a beautiful question.
Exactly. Yeah. I used to go to Iran every year, but it's been 2 years and a half that I have not gone. And I don't, maybe disconnect is not the word for it, because I don't feel disconnected, but I long for the tangible stuff, the hug, the smell of rice, that my mother cooks, or the all the tangible stuff that you can sense, all of your senses, you just absorb them. I long for those. But I think in a weird way we are even more connected because of COVID, because we are on our phone constantly, and so it's a different connection. And my practice, I think, as of now, I just as I said, I just write. So if I think of writing as a way I do my practice now, I address that in my writing for sure, that how lonely it felt to have my child during COVID, and being in the hospital all alone, and wanting and longing to have my mother, but it was impossible to have her. And that would be the feeling I think many, many women have.
Soheila, thank you so much for your generous group and your questions and your beautiful presentation today. I feel like I've learned so much, and I feel just really full with what I get to think about now. So thank you. And to everybody that's joining us, especially our students from Dr. MLK Junior School, we hope you enjoyed it too and that you learned so much. We will look forward to seeing everybody right back here, same time next week. That's 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we'll welcome back Spencer Garland and his project, Brenda Arts. This project is a collaboration between Portland Public Schools and Dr. MLK Junior School in particular, and the Portland State University School of Art and Design, Art and Social Practice MFA program. We have lots of undergraduate students and participants as well. So we're grateful to everybody for being here. We hope that everybody has a really wonderful week, and we can't wait to see you again next week. Have a